This is the Between Shadow Society Season 2, Part 10, 11, maybe? Let's say 10. I don't know. Uh, we'll have it right on the video. Let's recap. So we had a little break. So we've had like 2 weeks. So we're going to do a little recap here. We just have one active threat right now, which is the Shoreditch Slugger, and you have answered uh, the question about what is the source of the Shoreditch Slugger's superhuman strength, and that uh, essentially lets you get access to a custom move, which lets you tap into some of that strength. And you now have another question, which is what is the Shoreditch Slugger's weakness? This actually allows you to resolve the threat. You resolve the threat by exploiting this knowledge to destroy him or convince him through defeat or humiliation to retire from Bout Club and into obscurity. We saw in the Stinger that Admiral Flagg has approached the Shoreditch Slugger to hire him on as muscle. So getting rid of the Shoreditch Slugger might be pressing. I will tell you that you have one more night phase to do that. So I would probably get cracking on that. Hunters are looking pretty good in terms of conditions. Only Miss Blakely has a couple, and Mr. Graves has one that he can't get rid of. Yeah, so I think we're pretty well ready to go. Are there any questions or anything before we start? Okay, well, in that case, we shall. Oh, and also, I will just say now for people watching the video, if you're watching the video contemporaneously while when we're running this campaign, we're taking a break after this session because Mads is not going to be with us for a little bit. And so Shadow Society will be on hiatus for a couple months, and then it'll come back sometime in, we believe, September. And so this group is still going to be playing, though. And so just be on the lookout for other things. We'll be doing Trophy Gold, and then we'll be doing our brand new game, The Ghosts of El Paso, the Between Ghosts of El Paso. So be on the lookout for that. But Shadow Society, after this week, if you're watching this one and waiting for the next one, you got a couple months. So just know that. Okay, now let's do the day phase. New threat. The miasma of Miswell Hill. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Miswell? I don't know.
I'm not sure about that because there's a real part of London called Miswell Hill. But I wondered that when I read the.
Yeah, maybe it was made up for this. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
We're going to say Miswell. Miswell Hill Rookery is a honeycomb of crumbling slums arranged in a labyrinth of courtyards, blind alleys, cul-de-sacs, and stinking culverts. There is only one way in and out. The rookeries have long been a source of moral outrage, stoked by the gutter press and vote-grubbing politicians. Every day, a new lurid tale about the rookery appears in the penny papers, a melodramatic tangle of fiction and fact. While the great and good look for answers in the new sciences of eugenics and criminology, and the church blames venality, the locals warn of a stinking, corrosive mist that rises from the drains below, enveloping the streets of Miswell Hill. Under pressure to enact reform, the Committee for Public Sanitation has dispatched an Anglican churchman to the rookery. The Reverend Archibald Casaubon has not been seen since. The folk of the rookery say the miasma is alive and that it melted the good reverend, even as he clutched his Bible to his chest and called for his God to save him. All that remained was a puddle of liquid viscera and a few scraps of black cassock stuck to the cobblestones. A letter arrives at Hargrave House one morning, hand-delivered from Whitehall. The committee is most alarmed at the disappearance of the Reverend and suspects foul play. Scotland Yard has offered no explanation, being reluctant to send constables into the rookery, and your name came up as investigators of unconventional cases, and indeed, you helped out with Fig's Pigs, and so this may be a follow-up on that from a few years ago. Who has the highest reason? Appears to be Mr. Graves, actually.
Surprisingly, yeah, I was.
Mr. Graves, what about this story makes you think that the miasma is at best unknown to science and at worst something entirely unnatural?
I think the description of the priest going there catches Grace's attention for sure, and I think the idea that the authorities thought this was something that needed to be exorcised with religion indicates there's more to this than just somebody maybe knows something or suspects something or cannot already is unable to figure this out. So there must be more to it.
Interesting.
You don't just jump to sending a priest, right? That comes after you've not been able to figure it out in other ways.
Yeah, indeed. Who has the highest sensitivity? Is that also Mr. Graves?
That's also me, I think,
yeah,
because I bumped it after the last session. Yeah.
Mr. Graves, as you walk the streets above their courses, the underground rivers of London whisper secrets. What do they say about the miasma?
I think they speak to Graves of this miasma being something older than the city, something that has flowed in these waters since before the city was built atop of the rivers. You know, there are many rivers in London that are kind of just entirely enclosed in the modern time. And this calls back to hundreds of years before, when these waters were open to the air.
Indeed. We have a single question to start. Is the miasma generated by human hands or is something non-human at work? It is a complexity 2, and it unlocks the next appropriate question when it is answered. But you all have more pressing things to worry about, I think, in the short-edged slugger. But maybe not. I don't know. In any case, there is one. Oh, there's a mask here too, called the Mask of River's Rage. If you need that at some point. Let's go around the table and find out what everyone is doing today. I'm going to start with Ms. Everly Gray.
Question. Is that Empress condition of Blakely's permanent or is it a temporary? Oh, mute.
Double muted. That's a temporary condition. The only permanent condition I have right now is the walls.
I'm happy to try to help you dispel that if you want.
Perhaps.
Well, Ms. Blakely, what did you want to do today?
I think I want to go wake up our friend who sleeps during the day that we got to see a little while ago.
Julius. Julius. Okay, yeah. Interesting. He may not like a daytime visit, but you can certainly go do that.
I'm Miss Blakely. What's he gonna do? Say no?
So you're gonna go to Limehouse.
Do you want company?
To his lair in Limehouse is where we're gonna head.
I think yes. I think that is where I will go. Yeah.
Right, sounds good. Cornelius?
Mr. Graves, is your leg still broken? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think Graves is like on crutches, I guess.
Okay.
Or a crutch.
I think I'm haunting your room in the morning as you're like making ready to like get out of bed and move around on crutches and things. I'm hoping you might have an opportunity to have enough pain in your leg to cry, but I know that Graves is made of stouter stuff.
Yeah, Yeah, I think you'll definitely see you'll see a nice grimace and a a furrowed brow at least that might give you some satisfaction.
Well, so Mr. Graves. Well, so okay. Sorry, I was dealing with something else. What do you want to do again, Cornelius? Say again.
I'm trying to trigger a vulnerable scene here with Graves with my vice, watching people cry, but I don't know if that's I don't know if he's in enough physical pain from his leg break as he's like shifting up for the day. Maybe he is.
Are you gonna like make him cry?
I don't know if that's what it takes. Cornelius is not above that.
Intriguing. It's an interesting scene in any case. Do you, Miss Blakely, are you interested in having that scene with Miss Everly Gray?
I'm just trying to think of how we can frame this because Everly Gray has a history with Julius. I think we've established that in other things,
yeah,
but Blakely doesn't know that.
Wait, Everly Gray has a history with Julius? What's Everly Gray's history with Julius? I don't recall that.
From the Mask. So,
Oh,
the Mask of Comedy. So she met him when she
Right.
thought she was dealing with a nest of vampires and it was only just him.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's a little bit of knowledge there. And he also let her know about Blakely
Yeah.
before she even came to Hargrave House.
So the two of you are going to go visit Julius then? Or
I don't know if we would team up to do this. I think there's too much bad blood. Not to make a pun of that, but
Well, I mean, I think Artemis would definitely seek you out because of the dream that she's been having, and also possibly let you know what's going on with
you know
Theodora.
what? I think that kind of makes sense. And then okay, that ties in. We'll do that first. That ties into what I'm thinking can happen for other stuff. Cool. Love it. Let's do it.
frame up the scene. Let's do it.
Mads, do you want to frame up the scene?
Yes.
Perfect.
So Artemis is not going to wait until you're ready. She's going to go to your room and bang on the door. Blakely! Blakely!
How dare you bang on my door early this morning demanding of my attention? Who do you think you are, Everly Gray?
I am an Everly Gray. That's why I can do this. And she barges into your room. Doesn't matter. I would
hope
like
you
to
understand
know.
it means nothing to me.
Oh, I'm sure it doesn't. Nothing matters to you at all, does it? Especially from what I saw from my dream last night.
Oh my God, you barged in here to tell me about a dream.
Believe me, I would rather not. But when it comes up so clearly, I can't help but wonder if it's in some kind of omen.
And Blakely's kind of just walking around in her rooms, getting ready for the day as if she doesn't care that Everly Gray is there. She does, clearly. She's listening to every word, but she wants to pretend she doesn't. And
I want to know why you appear in my dreams, that I'm seeing your face under my hand painted, that I'm painting you, of all people. And then I am looking down at your disdainful face and falling, and then nothing else. Why?
Blakely slows down what she's doing. Well, how would I know? I assume a lot of people dream about me.
It happens to be
You
in a
wouldn't be the only one.
cathedral with a window with Theodore Brathwaite in it. Another strange occurrence.
I do believe that your imagination is getting the best of you, my dear Miss Everly Gray, and perhaps you should just leave well enough alone. You see, sometimes for Hargrave House, you can be slightly useful, and I would hate to see anything bad happen to you.
You would dare give me a threat? Really? What secrets are you hiding? Or how about why would Theodora Brathwaite want to keep you close? So close that she's creating a room for you in hers. Why?
A room. Oh, I suppose she just likes my company.
In the walls, perhaps.
Blakely still smiling, but just goes like ghost pale. Well, I couldn't possibly understand what you mean. Now, if you are quite done, or do you have any more dreams to tell me about? Perhaps a daydream, maybe some nightmares.
Oh, you are a nightmare. So, I think I'm done for now. Then she spins out of the room and goes back to her gallery.
Blakely puts down the hairbrush that I think she was probably brushing her hair with and stands very, very, very still for quite a long time before rushing out the door herself.
I love it.
And if she's rushing out the door, Everly Gray will sneakily follow.
I like it. Was there a vice happening in that scene?
I was trying to flog her with words, but it's very difficult
a
when
verbal flogging is
verbal
pretty good.
flogging.
Yeah,
But
I thought
Blakely's
that's what you might be
kind
doing.
of
Yeah.
suffering and not doing so good with the flogging. Poor flogging, indeed.
I mean, you could also sharp,
Imagine.
pointy words.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you have to make a case for both. We'll go with Everly Gray since you initiated the scene. What bonus do you want? Either invite the question or find a clue.
Oh, totally find a clue for sure.
Okay, all right. I will.
yeah.
Well, you get to define it. It can be either for the miasma of Miswell Hill, or it can be for the Shoreditch Slugger.
Can
Might
we?
need it for the Shoreditch Slugger.
No, I was gonna
Yeah.
say I would like it for the Shoreditch Slugger, but I mean, like, I'm perfectly happy to accept any unused clues so far.
Oh, I
just
can
because
give you
it's
one.
like,
Sure.
Yeah, I don't
give
really
one.
have anything in mind.
I'll give you one. Let me find a.
The clues for the Shoreditch Slugger are really good too. I just really like that whole mystery. It's so good.
Yeah, it's a really good thread. Let me review the ones you have already.
Yeah.
No failure. There's more about club than just spouting. Yeah. Okay, good. I will tell you that there is I think the morning paper is on Ms. Blakely's table, and it's featuring a story about a series of untimely deaths related to working men, dock workers, bricklayers, cabbies. And if you snatch the paper on your way out, Ms. Everly Gray, and read the story, you'll learn that perhaps by chance, but probably not, all of these deaths are in and around the locations of Bout Club that you have been aware of, the various Bout Club places. You also get the pleasure of stealing Miss Blakely's newspaper. Just good. Fantastic. Okay, so Cornelius, frame up this scene, please.
All right. Mr. Graves, I think it is unseasonably cold in your room today, which does no good for your broken leg. That makes it incredibly painful, and even more so as soon as you try and shift up to crutches. I don't know if that's like severe enough to get more than a grimace because of how you've described his constitution before. But it's so cold, like you can almost see your breath in the room. And you have the St. Petersburg mirror in there, right?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Well, I don't know when, but eventually you might notice a pair of eyes looking out from the mirror, and around the edges, the cold in the room is actually making it fog just a little. But as you're making ready for the day and dealing with this extra level of pain, I think there's at first what you think are just thoughts and ideas in your head, but they're actually auditorially present. It's whispers from the past, whispers of dead relatives. You wretched boy, you disappoint us. How could you let them in? How could you ruin our family's legacy? This kind of thing. And then eventually, what is it that tips you off, like finally and completely, to the presence of a ghost?
It's yeah, I think that cold and the eyes in the mirror are enough to do it. You know, I think Graves is pretty open to the possibility of that being the case anyway.
Do you call him out or ignore it, or what do you do?
Yeah, I think I call him out. It's I see I have a visitor.
Oh, Mr. Graves, it's so good to see you. Your family has so much to say about you. And the whispering voices start to just be filled with like melancholy and despair over you. And the eyes seem to roll. And the face becomes more present. The eyes are kind of half lidded, and a little bit satisfied with their discomfort, the whispering discomfort. The cold gets more intense as the presence becomes more pronounced.
What do you know of my family? You're not. I don't recognize you.
No. Well, I suppose not. We're all here together, Mr. Graves, in the after place. Can you hear them? I'm attempting to peel the veil back, and the words get more intense and louder, and it seems to be coming from the mirror.
Oh, I have no fear of encountering my family.
No.
If you're attempting to scare me, that's not the tactic that will do it.
Mr. Graves, I have no need to frighten you. In fact, you seem more frightening than most around here. I'm letting you do the frightening. Come now, have a look at him. Look at your progeny and despair. And you can hear them wailing from the other side.
I think at the sound of the word progeny, there is a look of fear that crosses Graves' face. He wasn't scared of encountering, his mother or his father, who he never really knew, or his grandfather that he hated. But the idea that there might be progeny is a new one to him.
We keep lots of things on the other side here, Mr. Graves. do you want to see?
Show me then.
And I think that it's just a swirling kind of miasma of blue and light, and it gets brighter from the mirror, and the wailing gets louder.
What is this?
The future and the past, all centered around you in the mirror.
You claim to see the future, spirit.
No, I do not see the future. The future repeats the past. Right now, you're stuck somewhere in the middle, as am I. What do you want to know? I have gotten my satisfaction from you, your past and your future. Perhaps I should give you a boon.
You spoke of progeny. What did you mean?
So do we think that we've gotten to a vulnerable move here?
Certainly. I guess the question is what conditions have been cleared
I'm trying to clear my condition
of shaken. Yeah, I think
of shaken.
You can definitely take that.
Okay.
And you can't clear most beloved. So yeah, are we like gonna pose a question then at this point?
Yeah.
Or invite the question?
I want to invite a question.
Who are you, spirit? What's your connection to my family?
And the mirror resolves into something more like a mirror, but then reflects Cornelius. His eyes appear at first, but then his full face, and eventually his open chest, where he's standing. The heart is not in his chest, and he's holding the heart in his hand. Something from your past did this to me. Something from your future is what I am concerned with. You and I are to be companions, and I will keep my eyes on you.
Ah, so that's who you are. It was your heart. Very interesting. Very interesting.
You would have kept it in a jar forever, wouldn't you have?
Until I saw it and need to use it, yes, which I did.
Yes, and what a use it was. But I'm back now.
Well, this is a most interesting start to the morning.
Things are going to be a lot more interesting around here now, Mr. Graves. Farewell for now. The mirror will dissolve into its regular state.
I have one thing to add. The mirror also begins to reflect a constellation, the night sky. You know the constellations very well because of your training, Mr. Graves. But the constellations depicted, the stars depicted, the night sky depicted, are certainly not of this world. That's a mastermind clue. And so, Limehouse, Are you both going, or just one of you going?
I think I'm going, and Everly Gray is following.
Sneakily following.
Very
Yeah.
good, very good. Well, we'll just pick up with Miss Everly Gray. You see Miss Blakely go into this like side door in a building in an alley at Limehouse. What do you do?
Does it look like it has, well, windows? Like
No, it's actually
bedrooms?
like quite there are a couple of windows in the building on the ground floor, but they've all been blacked out.
Uh-huh. Yeah, she already suspects what she believes. But she'll on board or like a different entrance. Like she won't follow directly with the entrance that Blakely goes through necessarily. But I mean if there's another window or a door nearby, that she'll go in that way.
Yeah, I think getting in is probably not too much trouble.
Right.
It appears to be whatever this building is, it hasn't been used for its original purpose in a long time. When you sort of like go through one of the windows, maybe smashing the glass, it's just a bunch of like dusty storage, not much going on. Although one curious detail in this room is a coffin just pressed up against some crates. What do you do?
She has a flask.
Do you know what sort of creatures are found in
Yes.
coffins, Ms. Everly Gray?
I do.
Please
I
make
do
the
very
day
well.
move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve?
That my training will not will out, and then I will get caught unawares by the vampires.
Very good. Go for it. With composure.
Oh, okay. Actually using stats. All right, great. 12.
Very good. You get a clue as well. But you're in control. What do you do?
She has her staves, and what she will do is she will pull them from their harness, and then some of the etchings in it, there's like some grooves that have been built in, and she shakes them, and then out from the bottom of the staves comes little stakes.
Very nice. And then what?
And then she will try to figure out where Blakely went, like try to follow the trail. So she's on the hunt for.
Indeed, indeed. For your 12 plus, I will let you enter the scene as you wish, whenever and wherever.
Sure.
Miss Blakely, you go through the twisting corridors and end up in this sort of throne room area. It's empty, except for someone sitting on the throne who you recognize. It is Periwinkle Underwood. He is not injured, scarred. He is back to being pristine and beautiful. He's very scantily dressed right now. And he's just sitting there kind of slumped in the chair, nodding off, actually. He's kind of asleep with his hand in his fist. What do you do?
You, model. Are
He
you
looks-
back from the dead as well?
He looks up and rubs his eyes and says, "Oh, Miss Blakely. I had a dream about you."
Oh, another dream about me.
Yes. Well, it's probably best if I don't tell you what I saw in the dream.
Well, you can't lead up like that and then leave a girl hanging. That's just rude.
He says, "Well, I saw you beating against a wall, a brick wall, scratching, rubbing your fingertips
Enough.
raw.
Enough. What are you doing here?
He says, I have a new purpose. I've been given new life.
Ah, I
By
see.
the one I assume you're here to see.
Yes, will you fetch him for me, please?
I'm afraid he's asleep right now. He doesn't really get up much in the day.
Yes, I'm aware, but I'm here and I need to see him.
And he kind of gets off the chair and says, don't tell him you saw me sitting in the chair.
Your secret is safe with me, my dear.
And he walks up to you and he smells really good, like lilac and gardenia, but also like the unmistakable scent of just like a kind of like musk, you know. And he says, so are you here to join our little circle of devotees?
Now, don't you try and distract me from what I'm here to do. I got enough distraction the last time I was here.
I can certainly go fetch him, but he's going to be angry. He's always
Yes,
very
well.
irritable if he doesn't get his full 10 hours of sleep.
Oh, I know. I'm very well aware.
He says, yes, I suspect that the two of you share that in common. And he goes off. And he sort of goes into an adjoining doorway. What do you do in the meantime?
Looking around, getting my bearings in the room, looking for exits just in case.
Speaking of just in case, you are now quite suddenly aware of a group of men and women clinging to the ceiling, looking down at you with hungry eyes and fangs bared. Probably about a half a dozen of them, say. And we shall cut from there. Mr. Graves, what would you like to do with the remainder of your day?
I'm interested in going to visit Miswell Hill.
The rookery. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, you don't have a lot to go on yet, as far as leads go, just the sort of general location of the troubles. But that might be enough, though.
I'm wondering if I can find out where this Anglican priest was sent from.
He was actually sent by. He was sent to. Yeah, he was sent from Whitehall, but sent to. Yeah. We can definitely do that. We can sort that out. Mr. Morgenstern, what about you?
I think
a
that
little more limited in the day now that everybody's gone.
Right. Yeah. The move says that you can stray from the house, but not like in a corporeal form, potentially. I wonder if I've impressed upon Mr. Graves enough that like I can be haunting him today.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, but I don't have a very like, I don't have very much of a presence.
It says you may you can summon enough spectral energy to temporarily break free from your ghostly bonds. Whenever instructed to do so, either by the keeper or another move, mark the energy track when the track is full. Yeah, you're going to have to really come up with an interesting justification here. So you have made flesh, which lets you take a physical form.
That's during the dusk.
That's during dusk.
So I think that like Mr. Graves has either like buttons or paraphernalia that are reflective, and I've impressed upon them enough that at least for a few hours I can be near them and anchored to them. But if they get like splashed or something, or disrupted in any way, I'll probably just find myself back at Hargrave House.
Yeah, mark your track, but I'll allow it. Just one box.
Then I can't make flesh tonight.
That's true.
Rubbish.
So, Mr. Graves, the rookery. Sounds good. Let's take our break now. Take 5. Let's pick up in the rookery, actually. It is, as I described in the beginning, a honeycomb of crumbling slums arranged in a labyrinth of courtyards, blind alleys, cul-de-sacs, and stinking culverts. This is the worst that London has to offer. It is poverty. It is stench. It is people stacked on top of one another. And Mr. Graves, you are hobbling in through the single entrance into the rookery. That's noted as well. There's essentially one like kind of gate entrance into this little neighborhood. And the first thing you see, Mr. Graves, and Mr. Morgenstern, you see all this as well through the buttons. I think you can probably interact in various reflective surfaces. You may not be able to communicate super well, but you can observe and be there. Mr. Graves, you will see a young man. His jacket's very patched and soiled, and he's got a stack of papers, and he's handing them out to anybody who's walking by. He says, "Here, take a pamphlet. Here you go, take a pamphlet. We represent the workers of this city. Yeah, pamphlet, there you go." And
Thank you.
he hands you one and says, he's kind of looking at your coat and your manner of dress. You probably look a little nicer than he does, and generally people do in Miswell Hill. And he says, "You're not from around here, eh, sir?"
Indeed not. No.
Did you
I'm not from.
come into money, or are you in service to the cruel masters of enterprise?
I'm in service to cruel masters. Indeed, yes.
He's like, "Yes, well, they are destroyers of human happiness, sir, fattened on corruption and on the labor of the workers. And I hope you'll take a pamphlet and read it and understand the struggle. Indeed, join the struggle." And he sort of goes to the next person who's walking by. What do you do?
I take it, yeah, and I'll take a look at least,
Yeah, it's a lot of like detailing in lurid terms, various cruelties of various industrial people and in the city and what they put their people through and that kind of thing. Lots of large typeface demanding better pay and working conditions.
Yeah, I think I will tuck it into my jacket for perusal later.
He does seem like the kind of guy who probably sees a lot of people that come through the rookery, though.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I will wait until they're, he's handed out a few flyers and there's a lull in the people passing, and I'll try and get his attention and
He says,
ask him a few questions.
"Have you been enlightened ideologically so quickly, sir?"
I like to think that I'm not ignorant of the plight of the working man.
He says, "Well, by the look of your shoes, sir, you don't often have to think about the plight of the working man."
Appearances can be deceptive.
Perhaps. I suppose your leg may speak to the man buried beneath the toffery.
Indeed, and in a manner of speaking, you might say that the injury was sustained in the line of the physical side of my employment.
Ah, yes, yes. It's a terrible thing. Terrible thing. What happens to those who work for the fattening of the purses of others?
It is indeed the purses
I have seen
and the
stevedores dragged beneath the water or injured by snapped lines. I have seen textile mill workers, their hands deformed for the rest of their natural lives. What befell you, sir?
there was an altercation. My line of work is of an investigative nature. In fact, I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions. I know that there recently has been some trouble with this miasma, and it's taken the lives of many hardworking men and women in this part of the city.
Make the investigation or the information move with presence. What are you doing in the meantime, Cornelius?
I think when he starts talking about the miasma,
Mhm.
like laughter starts to echo from far away places. And
Make the situation better, Cornelius. The people of Miswell Hill have not suffered enough. Very good.
7 on that investigation move.
7, good. He says, yes, I see. I worried that perhaps you were here to spy on our little movement down here, or perhaps even to break it up. But I can see now that you're here for lurid tales. Perhaps you work for one of the penny papers.
I work for an organization called Hargrave House. You may have heard of it, but
He says, I actually have. In fact, there's a young writer. Algernon Reimer is his name. He has a little garret here in the rookery. He sometimes attends our meetings, and in any case, sometimes found in the pubs where we Chartists hang out. And he has mentioned your group from time to time.
Indeed. In what context, might I ask?
Well, Algernon writes for the penny papers, and your organization is frequently found in the vicinity or in the periphery of stories that are most ghoulish and demonic.
That is true. Let me assure you that, trivial as it may seem, or lurid as it may seem, there is a serious side to the investigations we undertake.
Yes, I see. And so the miasma, I suppose you have heard about the poor Reverend Casabon who came here to investigate on behalf of Whitehall.
I did hear that, yes. My own grandfather was in the same line of work as the Reverend, although of a different denomination, you might say. What? Did you see the Reverend? Did you meet him?
No, I didn't have a chance, but I do know where he managed to spend some time before his industrial accident took place. He, he straight away thought that there was something going on with the morals here, that it was a certain moral depravity, a stain on the soul that was causing this to happen. And so
sadly, that is a conclusion that men of the cloth often lead to.
Yes, indeed. Well, his first stop, of course, was Ada's gin shop, because, well, The great poison of the poor is alcohol, is it not? That's what they keep telling us.
As if the rich don't also indulge.
Yes, yes. But he also spent a bit of time with Dr. Charles,
And who's Dr. Charles?
a fellow with very, very interesting ideas, sir. My name is Edwin Bamber, by the way.
It's a pleasure. Crawford Graves.
Well, Mr. Graves, if you're here looking into the fate of our dear Reverend, I suggest you go find Dr. Charles or the gin shop, and certainly stop by and say hello to Algernon. He would be delighted to meet an actual resident of Hargrave House in the flesh.
Well, this has been most helpful.
Indeed.
I appreciate your time. And I will take this pamphlet under consideration and pass it on to some friends of mine who may take an interest.
And this is just your clue. Your clue is the Reverend's spending time with both this Dr. Charles and at the gin shop. Just the initial sort of leads. Mr. Morgenstern, anything you want to do in the scene?
I think I'm just harassing Graves, like whispering things in his ear. Do you want to talk to the Reverend? He's here with me now.
Indeed, indeed. Let's cut back over to Julius's den. Miss Blakely, there are vampires crawling on ceilings, and their teeth are bared, and they look like they're about to descend upon you. What do you do?
Blakely looks up, looks them all in the eye, and says, I wouldn't recommend it. I'm here to see Julius, and between my wrath or his, you certainly would regret it.
The one on the ceiling says, Julius says we are only bound to his word at night. And I may have it wrong, but this feels very much like the day.
Then you should be sleeping. You wouldn't want to be cranky
Another
when you
one
wake up.
says, it is certainly a letter of the law versus spirit of the law interpretation, but nevertheless.
Goodness, what are you, an attorney?
They're still crawling down the walls. Miss Everly Gray, do you wish to appear, or are you hanging back?
Hanging back. Just for funsies. I'm just
Miss Blakely,
listening.
they jump on you. They jump down. What do you do?
I'm just gonna take a little quick look at my, whoa, hold on, my character keeper just got huge text. Everything zoomed in a lot. It's very big. Okay, I'm just gonna take a look at what's in my, gosh, I know I can't fight them.
You can, but
Like, well, yeah, I could, but I feel like that's not gonna win. That's not gonna be very good. I don't really have the sapphire. I can't really do anything with that. Giveth and taketh away. I suppose what I will do is kill one of them. Have we established what kills a vampire in this?
all the normal sorts
Aside
of
from,
vampire
like,
things, probably.
Chop off its head,
Yeah,
silver,
burning,
etc.
silver,
staking.
steak, yeah.
Well, I imagine shooting it in the head with an 1851 Colt Navy wouldn't help it. It might not kill
Probably
it.
not. No, indeed not.
So whatever one comes at me first, that's the one that I'm gonna.
Day move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
Then they're all gonna jump on me, and I'm going to have to fight them.
Okay. Roll with its sensitivity.
Oh, good. That's my good
And you can, if the gun is unmarked, you can mark it to take advantage.
Oh, I do want to mark it. Yes, please. That's an 8.
An 8. You'll be able to dispatch this one vampire, at least until it can recover or whatever. But the others are going to continue pressing forward. So go ahead and describe that.
I can also jump in at this point.
That's
as
what I was
well.
thinking. It might be
Yeah.
that's when Miswell Gray saves you.
I think the first one kind of launches off the wall as it climbs down. And it's sort of one of those things where you can see the flash in its eyes, and it's all very quick moving action. And Blakely had her hand on the gun the whole time because she's walking into a vampire den. And very steadily very steady hand, surprisingly for Blakely at this moment in time. And she just shoots it right between the eyes, mostly by luck rather than being a good shot. She's just lucky in this situation, lucky in a lot of situations, which is why she's lived for so long, I think, and also the cathedral thing. And I think the vampire screeches and it hits the floor with a sort of sickening squelch. And there's a really short moment of just silence. You can kind of hear the echoing of the gun, but that's about it. When the other vampires all screech and launch like
Indeed.
a bunch of bats.
Well, I think the complication is Miswell Gray has to save you here. So Miswell Gray, what happens?
So as the other ones descend down, I mean, this is where Artemis comes into her own, and she is literally flying through the air with a great leap and dispatching them as they try to drop on Blakely. So it's like, she's got both staves in the hand with the stake part way out, and then so it's like thunk thunk. It's just like doing her training in her gallery, except falling vampires. It's
I love
fun.
it. It's always
she's
vitality
laughing.
for
She's
you.
laughing maniacally right now. So
it's always vitality for you. Day move. What do you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I mean, she's gonna miss at least one, and then that's the one that's going to fall on her, and then we're both in trouble. So
roll with vitality.
Yep. Okay, that is a 7.
A 7. Would you like to mark your weapon to bump it up?
Absolutely.
All right. You have to describe. We've already kind of described it, but basically, you will eventually have to narrate a flashback showing
the specific with
the weapon, destroying a monster of that type.
Yep.
But you get a 10+. Go ahead and describe how you defeat the vampires.
Okay, so I forget how many were in here, but I mean, again, as they're falling down, I mean, she's whipping them out very quickly. So again, falling target practice. So one after the other. I mean, she's staking them as they are falling down, and then as they are dropping, she's literally shaking them off her staves and then staking the next one and the next one, and then just all in line. And then she spins around and then puts them back in her harness and goes, "You owe me."
Nice.
You followed me.
Still owe me.
Mark an X on your hunt. Is that really great? And at that point, Julius and Periwinkle will come from the back room. They are both half dressed. And Julius says, I suppose it's going to be that kind of day.
No greeting from an old lover, eh, Julius?
Oh, you too.
Yes.
Says, well, how delightful for me to be greeted before I've had a full day's sleep by 3 of my current and or former paramours. Well, at least you managed to dispatch this group. You get to be too many vampires in one place and the authorities start to pay attention. Now I can at least hunt in a little bit more ease.
Yes, they were rather, well, they didn't have a lot of control over themselves.
Well, I took their coffins away. They're
Ah,
upset.
well, that would do it.
Yes. They didn't like having to sleep on the ceiling. But they disobeyed me and it had to be done.
I'm sure they deserved it. Now, Julius, darling, I do have some questions for you. Unfortunately, I meant to ask you the other day, but then I was quite thoroughly distracted by, well, everything going on. Of course, I would rather ask them in private, looking over at Everly Grey.
Oh, anything that you say to Julius could possibly be said in front of me. And Periwinkle.
I'm glad all three of you have made so many executive decisions about what I'll be doing today. Splendid. Well, come to the back. And we'll go from there. Mr. Graves and Mr. Morgenstern, I'll give you one more scene here. You can follow up on something or do something else in the Miswell Hill before the day is over.
I think Mr. Graves is going to pay a visit to Ada's gin shop.
Sounds good. Ada's gin shop. Ada distills gin in a bathtub in a creaky wooden room that overhangs an alleyway. The gin is tainted by the miasma, and they say that those who drink it receive strange visions. That's the rumor anyway. Let's paint the scene though. Perhaps you are looking into a cup of the gin while you wait on Ada to get to you. When you stare into the gin, it's a question for just Mr. Graves and Cornelius. When you stare into the gin, what signs of adulteration can you see?
Well, I think gin is supposed to be a very clear spirit typically. And this is not so. It's cloudy. And the cloudiness is a kind of grayish green hint to it. Quite what that could be is anyone's guess, I think.
While only Mr. Graves is staring into the cup and nobody else is present to see, Cornelius will cause it to like bubble and things. And when it bubbles, you can see that like that oily sheen, that multicolored sheen that things have. And Cornelius is like, look at this, wretched. And then it gives a pop and something, it gets thicker, it's more viscous as it like splashes out where gin is supposed to be a very like, a very dry thing.
A voice from deeper inside the building will yell, I'm back here. They must have heard you come in.
Good afternoon.
If you go to the back, you will see a woman, a gray lace or graying lace shawl wrapped around her shoulders, which seems to be scant protection for the cold. It's this sort of like a cold place that she lives and works in. She's currently stirring a sharp-smelling mixture in a copper bathtub with a large wooden stick, and the stick has pock marks down its shaft as though the liquid is eating away at it. She grabs a handful of herbs and flowers from her pocket and tosses them in the tub, and then she looks up at you. And her eyes are glassy, and she says, I collect the herbs under the moonlight. It shines deep underground for old man Miss, even though he can't see it no more.
Ada, I presume.
Yes.
My name is Crawford Graves.
Ah, yes. Well, Mr. Graves, I'm afraid we probably don't have the sort of thing that you're accustomed to drinking here, sir.
I've heard interesting things at the properties of your product.
You have not come alone, have you, Mr. Graves?
And what makes you say that?
I can see people standing behind you, just a little to the left and a little to the right.
People.
Yes. People that are very amused by this. Ah. And unless you're playing a trick on me, that might be the voice of one of these apparitions.
I'm no ventriloquist, man.
This one's had too much of her own drink. She has 1 foot in our realm too.
Tell me. I've heard that when we experience interesting visions, if one is to consume your gin.
Perhaps you should buy a flagon.
Oh, I think I will, yes. I have
And
an interest in psychonautics and experiencing the connection to the other side.
Indeed. Well, this jug here is a fine distillation. Drink it down and you'll be connecting to the other side for the rest of the day and part of the night, I suspect.
It sounds most interesting. Tell me, is this a deliberate effect? What do you add? What do you add to your distillation there?
I told you, herbs and other additives collected by moonlight.
And the moonlight is significant.
Yes, Mr. Graves, but you know that already.
Indeed.
You're asking questions in a coy manner in the hopes that I will tell you things that you want to know, when you would be best served by just having a drink, or perhaps whispering over your shoulder at the thing that is currently rather lasciviously lapping at your earlobe.
Yes, he does appear to be a rather lascivious fellow. I think he thinks that he has me scared.
I don't think she's
But then-
talking about me, Graves. I'm all the way over here.
Across the room in the big gin bathtub, Cornelius is having a closer inspection.
I'm picturing him with his trouser legs rolled up and stomping around in the gin.
I imagine you're just reflecting in the gin.
Yeah, I think you just see the little eyes in the corner of some of the, but I like your interpretation too.
Well, Cornelius, you can take a information move of sensitivity.
Okie dokie. Let's try that out. $13.
Oh, very interesting indeed.
Mm.
You will notice, Cornelius, there is a whole crate of the gin packed up and stamped for delivery to your next door neighbors on Belgrave Square. But also, your reflection changes, Cornelius. The image dissipates, and Graves, you see that Cornelius's image in the reflective liquid has changed to be a man being drowned in a body of water.
A man in priest's vestments, by any chance?
No. But a man clearly being drowned.
Tell me, Miss Ada, I believe you encountered our mutual friend, the Reverend Casaubon. It seemed I was informed he leapt to some rather predictable conclusions about the nature of the miasma here.
Yes. Then they found him, melted into a puddle of goo.
Indeed. And what did you tell him or what did he ask you about what was going on?
He didn't ask much. He mostly polemicized.
One of those sorts of priests, yes. I'm familiar with the type.
He seemed to have all the answers. I do wonder if it rather took him by surprise when he melted into a puddle of goo.
I imagine it must have done, yes. What's your take on the matter of the miasma?
Pass over your money, friend, for that jug of gin, and I'll talk.
Oh, gladly. Gladly, perhaps I shall
Roll
take two.
Information over the presents.
See, presents 1. 9.
We'll come back to that. You're in the back room of Julius's little den. There are a group of people partially dressed like Periwinkle, and they're all crouching on their hands and knees, bowing around Julius's coffin, sarcophagus really, which is on an elevated dais. And he says, "Welcome to my new little religion."
Yes, you seem to have done quite well for yourself.
Well, you know, they make for easy eating in the evenings. I consider it. It's a whole thing, a whole song and dance. You've been chosen by God and all that.
Oh, trust me.
They
I'm very
love it.
familiar with all of that.
They love it, though. People do start to ask questions when the loved ones don't return after some time, don't they?
Then you just have to get the loved ones into your little flock as well.
Periwinkle is very helpful, actually. Aren't you, Periwinkle? And Periwinkle sort of nods enthusiastically. How can I help you, Miss Blakely and Artemis?
Well, my dear, I do have a question about how is it you are, well, back to the land of the living, so to speak. Last I saw you, you were quite burnt.
Yes. Oh, are you okay, Periwinkle? Periwinkle's been through quite a lot, as you may well know, over the last few months. But now lovingly restored. Let's just say there are old things in the earth that are reawakening as of late, Miss Blakely, revealing themselves the ancients, they knew things that we've lost track of in the modern world. Those things are being made, well, known to us again. I simply drink deeply from such fountains.
Very interesting. Well, on a different topic,
Hmm.
in all of your time and all of the things that you've learned and all the people that you know, have you ever seen anything quite like this? And she pulls out the remnants, the jar with the remnants of the oil that was used to anoint the Shoreditch slugger.
Oh.
And she pops open the lid just slightly and dips a finger in, runs it along her wrist, where the thicker veins and the softer skin is. It's quite remarkable.
Make the information move with presence.
While she's doing that, Artemis is just going to make the comment to Julius. It's like, Julius, I don't know if you had the pleasure, but you'll be happy to know that Blakely's blood is similar to yours, except less fresh.
Yes, well, takes all types, doesn't it? All creatures great and small in our little burg of London. What'd you get on your roll, Miss Blakely?
10.
10. He says, take a look at the clues. He says, yes, well, we are in a very, very exciting age, Miss Blakely. You and I are very lucky because we've had plenty of time to see how these people have managed to crawl from atop their mounds and from deep within their caves, and gradually over the centuries have managed to, learn how to start fires, invented the wheel, aqueducts. I was there for that one. And all other manner of progress. And now here we are, here in London, the tip of the technological spear. There is a great interest in rejuvenating tonics and unguents. Certain people in the know have even sought me out, thinking that my blood might be of particular use. I'm sure you've had similar propositions in your
Yes,
time.
indeed.
Yes. Well, these people, they're obsessed with it, aren't they? Blood. I don't blame them. It is what makes them what they are, and yet it is also their great burden. Because when the blood goes bad, well, that's the end of them. But I know this particular unguent. It was actually not originally created to be a restorative. It was actually created to be sort of a magnificent assassin's tool. It would cause wounds to never heal, so that even the most innocuous blow could lead to death.
Well, that's certainly quite interesting.
That is your
Do you
clue,
happen
though.
to know who in London is capable of creating such a thing?
It is perhaps a story for another day, Miss Blakely. But suffice it to say, there are many, many brilliant minds in London. Well, several have been in Hargrave House at different points in its history.
Fascinating.
Pushing the boundaries, testing the borders of creation, of life and death.
Oh, are you speaking of that horrendous Dr. Noble?
Mm,
She's long dead. Good riddance.
I don't frequently remember their names, if I'm being honest, Miss Blakely. There are so many after a time.
I do have one final question, Julius, my dear. You see, I have been, as of late, concerned about my own blood, so to speak. Things have been changing in a way that I don't particularly enjoy. And I thought, well, if I had what you have, then perhaps that would be the little kick I need to get myself back on track.
Oh, fantastic. That means I have future leverage on you.
Oh, no, my dear. You misunderstand. I'm
I?
saying you become one of mine. It'll be a fair trade.
I think not, Miss Blakely. No,
Hmm.
no. I am the worshipped, not the worshipper. I like that very much.
Well, it is unfortunately going to be your loss. I was going to, well, if you aren't interested, you aren't interested. And no need to tell you what your prize would be.
Mm. And he's getting ready to finish the meeting when he says, "Oh, someone else from Hargrave House stopped by recently. Seems I can't stop getting visitations from you all.
Oh,
An
and
old mutual friend."
oh yes, yet
Artemis
another
is
back
smiling
from
in
the dead.
background.
Wanted to know if I knew a good stonemason. I thought that was a strange question.
Well, do let me know if you reconsider.
Oh, I will. And he says, Periwinkle will show you out. Artemis, it was lovely seeing you again.
Lovely seeing you too, Julius. Thank you for not making any moves. Because I did make a promise last time.
Yes, and I know you like to keep your promises.
It
Now,
was beautiful while it lasted.
he says, was it?
Maybe not.
And we shall cut back over to wrap up this scene at Ada's gin shop, and then we will call it a day phase. You get the mid result, right?
I got a 9, yeah.
And you had asked her, what did you ask her specifically?
What the Reverend had been asking about, and what her opinion of what was going on was. Because
right, yeah.
because the Reverend had not really asked any questions. He'd leaped to judgment, as it were.
She says, I know exactly what's going on.
You do?
Yes. It's the spirit of the river. Old man Miz. He's returned. That's what it is. And them that wants to survive will be sure to pay homage.
And what do you think has brought him back?
Who can say? This is, though. And she's looking over your shoulder again. I have a feeling you are going to become very acquainted with that particular spirit of the river, Mr. What was your name again?
Graves. Graves.
Graves. Watery Graves. Take the condition marked by old man Miz. But that's also your clue. She believes the miasma is a manifestation of this spirit, whether it's true or not.
Mr. Graves, it's getting crowded around here.
Oh, it's always crowded around me. I'm quite used to it by now.
Best not drink that foul liquid. You don't need any more despicable spirits in your person.
What a turn of phrase. You can put Adish gin in your personal quarters if you'd like them, Mr. Graves.
I'm also, yeah, planning to sample it during the dusk phase, I think.
Perhaps. Let's go ahead and move to the dusk phase. All right. There's nothing that can happen right now in the terms of moves. So let's talk about Hargrave House. Let's do the trophy room. We haven't done the trophy room in ages. There were hunters living in
Actually-
What?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Like with mine, since I marked Cosmic Passage, it says I'm supposed to roll with presence about my connection to the beast
Oh.
for dusk.
That did not end up in the little dusk tracker, but let's read it now. The Cosmic Passage. Your connection to the beast has grown. At the start of the dusk phase, roll with presence. We'll go ahead and do it. Let's do it.
Six.
Well, what would have happened is on a 10 plus, you take advantage of your next roll and describe what aspect of the beast is helping you out. On a 7-9 is above, but you take a condition bloodthirsty. There's no miss condition, but
Okay.
I will take it. You may want to bump up the roll because I am going to have Julius lead an assault on Hargrave House tonight.
Oh, damn.
Just to be a petty bitch.
Sounds so cool. Shit. Oh, bump up the roll. Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll do moss covered gate.
Very
for fun.
good.
I'm sure Julius will find another way to be a petty bitch.
Of
Indeed.
course.
On a 7-9, you do get advantage on your next roll and describe what aspect of the beast is helping you, but you take bloodthirsty as a condition.
That's
That
fine.
could be very helpful
Oh, yeah.
in its way. Okay, let's talk about the trophy room. There were hunters living in Hargrave House before you, as we have adequately explored today. Trophies from their encounters with the supernatural can be found here. Please describe a trophy.
There is an extremely interesting preserved thing in a glass case, and it appears to be a plant. And growing out of it is this kind of like a thick rope of almost like an umbilical cord, and connected to that is what looks like the form of a small lamb.
Artemis has actually been avoiding this room for a little bit. And when she finally goes in, she realizes to her dismay that there is the head of a beast here from a long, long time ago. But she recognizes it because it is very similar to how her brother looked.
In a glass case in one of the corners, from far away, it just looks like a massive, like hair or wool or something. But when you get closer, you can see it's like a wig. It's a beautiful head of hair, and the hair is tipped with these sharp barbs. And the little plaque on the box reads, "The scalp of a Haryanago." Haryanago. Yeah, it'd be Haryanago, which is a type of hair demon.
There is a floor to ceiling painting that has thick canvas over the front of it. It is tacked on the bottom and on the top, and there is even a large bar sideways across the middle of it, and occasionally the canvas you can see like things press up against the canvas if you sit there long enough and watch.
Fantastic. Do you want to answer a question? Maybe the one that you need to answer vis-a-vis the short slugger. Does anyone have a theory, or do you want to wait and take a break first? I'm open to either path here.
Let's do a quick break, and that way we can kind of take a look at the clues, etc.
We'll take a break and we'll wrap up the desk phase. Then we'll take 5. A quick point of clarification. I had said that Whitehall sent the Reverend. That's not true. It was the Committee for Public Sanitation dispatched the Reverend, but Whitehall has asked you to follow up on the matter and his disappearance. So the question for the Shoreditch Slugger is, what is his weakness? You currently have 7 clues? No, 6 clues. You have 6 clues on a complexity 6. Who has a theory?
I've got one that ties. Yeah, I've got one that ties up some of the clues together, but not every clue.
I mean, the only lead that I sort of have for a theory is the fact that the unguent was formerly used to cause wounds that to never heal. So if the slugger is having this anointment on his body, essentially like any blows that he's dealing on any of these working men is pretty much causing them to stay beaten and bloody. So that's creating his strength and their weakness. So, I mean,
it could also be that he's kind of using it like he's having this applied regularly to build up a tolerance to it, right? So that it has the opposite of, effectively has the opposite effect. It makes him invulnerable.
Yeah, I have a different theory, that the slugger has known no failure, and that's because he always strikes first, because if he takes a hit, he's subject to this unguent too. Like, I think it's an effective thing that like makes you more susceptible to like wounds that won't heal, but it also makes you like incredibly strong. So he has to keep taking it. That's why he's known no failure. And he fights at a thought that he can't get rid of. That if he stops fighting, if he stops showing that he is too dangerous to be messed with, then somebody will mess with him, accidentally hurt him, and he'll die. So that's my theory, that for tying those 3 clues together, but it doesn't account for the other 3 clues, that there's more to Bout Club than just bouting, that he fights for the love of a woman. But it probably explains the untimely deaths. He just is striking people down before they could potentially hurt him.
What if one of the reasons he's doing this, I mean, we know he fights for the love of a woman, and we know that there's more to Bout Club than just bouting. What if one of the reasons the slugger is using this ointment and putting himself at great risk to, if he gets hit, he's going to get hurt, because he's going to be susceptible to this thing as well, this unguent. But what if he believes, and the people who are involved in Bout Club believe, that in order to be the person that, what if the slugger thinks that this woman that he loves, or the woman this woman he was fighting for the love of, if he thinks that he needs to win all of these matches and be this like macho manly fighter guy, in order to keep that love. And that's sort of ingrained in the whole idea of Bout Club, like a little toxic masculinity club. That's what they're using this for now. Everybody in the club is using this stuff, maybe. And well, some people are drinking it, right? Wasn't it an elixir?
Well,
Magic.
so it's a little unclear. The elixir was we established that the elixir was like a watered down version of the unguent, basically, right?
Mhm.
And so that was relevant to finding the source of its power, which has something to do with bees and honey or something. Yeah, so okay, so I think the one theory of like he has to keep fighting and winning because the unguent has made he's actually like highly vulnerable. Is that what you're saying, David? Like,
Yeah, like if somebody manages to strike him, like he'll probably die.
oh, I see.
Mm.
He's like a glass hammer
Yeah.
or a glass cannon or whatever
Glass
the phrase
cannon.
is.
Yeah, it's glass cannon. That's interesting. That's why he's known no failure.
Yeah, because he can't.
Because he can't. Yeah.
And the unguent has caused all of this. It makes him incredibly like powerful and able to kill, but if somebody gets a strike on him, it's made him frail. Like it's like, yeah, I don't know, like getting into like the biology, but I don't know how much that matters. But
yeah, I mean, I guess the no failure then that just refers to the fact that like he can't lose, right? Because
he can't afford to
lose.
Yeah,
to lose, right? Yeah.
If he had, that would have been the end of the
Yeah.
tale, right? Yeah, there would be no story to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd just be Joe that got beat up and not the
Mhm.
Shoreditch slugger.
Yeah.
well, he'd just be Joe,
Would
the
he be
guy who
dead?
died.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because like the one punch would definitely like,
Right.
you know, yeah.
Maybe
So
that's
basic-
what happened to our buddy, who's the guy that died? Bird? Something Bird.
The brother of the one
the
fella
brother,
who's
yeah.
Bram's buddy, yeah.
yeah.
Phineas Bird.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what happened to
Yeah.
Phineas Bird.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, so we have seen that it's true that the slugger has power. The elixir of the unguent is giving him the power, but it sounds like the weakness is he's actually highly vulnerable to its original purpose, which was to like prevent wounds that could not heal. So essentially, it seems like what the unguent is doing is it's sort of like, how is it doing both? How is it both making him strong and also making him highly vulnerable? That's the part I can't quite square.
I think like if we're thinking about the biology of how this would function, I think it might make his bones incredibly hard, but make his organs oversized. So if somebody can get a good strike on him, they're basically striking his organs.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's interesting. Oh,
but like everything about him is super. He can strike harder because his organs are able to pump more into his muscles and into his extremities, and his bones are harder. But if somebody can just get a good shot and make his ribs shift, they're striking his organs.
So you're saying the weakness is you just got to get in one good punch, basically. Yeah.
But that's
God,
why he
steroids.
that's why he has no failure, because he can't afford to. That's what the unguent is doing to him. That's why there's a series of untimely deaths,
Right.
because he'll kill anybody that is getting close to like messing with him.
Oh, I see. So he's like just murdering people too.
Yeah, if somebody
Right.
if somebody's like drunk and they start getting belligerent with him and he's afraid that they're going to strike him, he'll kill them.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I'm into that. And
he fights at the thought that he can't get rid of, that if he stops, somebody will hurt him and people will not dodge him on the street and he'll just die. He'll just get killed.
yeah.
It's
Someone
like
just come smack him on the shoulder and that'll be it.
right. Well, I mean, like it's kind of like the reverse of what like some had thought, which was, you know, like let the person wear themselves out on like, you know, hitting him,
and then then he'll come out with a strike. No, he has to strike first. He has to strike like fast and hard and frequent to make sure they don't land a
And
spot
he has to
on him.
finish strike first and once.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's intriguing. I like it. It still doesn't account for these two clues. There's more about club than just bouting. And I think what that specifically meant is there was like a sort of like the men were having sex with each other, and also that he fights for the love of a woman. These could be red herrings. But I don't know. What do we think?
Well, maybe whoever is involved in making this elixir from the bees. I think we determined that some of the bottles are like actual stuff watered down, and some of them are just fake. Of
think
these
so,
bottles,
yeah.
I think that's what we determined. Maybe they know about this, made these magical properties of this, and the idea is to use the shortage slugger as sort of and look how good it works. Look at this specimen of a being using this stuff. So it's sort of like a two-sided thing. It's not necessarily related to the weakness.
Oh, so he's an advertisement
other than
as
building
well.
up the story.
So he's an advertisement as well.
Yeah.
Is that the idea? Okay.
Yeah. And that sort of makes his story reach further into the city. Whoops, I just knocked over my dice. Oh no. It just makes the story reach further into the city, which makes whoever is making this stuff richer, and also gives another layer of protection to the slugger, because then if people haven't even heard of him, haven't even heard about Club, they might have heard this story and stay away from him.
Yeah, there's a mystique. Yeah, that's interesting. I like it. I think it's good. If you can come up with something for the fighting for the love of a woman, I'm open to it, but it doesn't feel connected.
What
That's
if
how it started.
what if the person who made it, the one who's benefiting in the end of all of this, is the woman, and the slugger subjects himself to this because he loves her?
Oh, that's interesting.
I like it.
That's a good context to add. We could say that. That's pretty good.
I was also trying to make some weird bee connection where it's like the queen bee somehow. But
there's
I mean, that might be how she perceives herself.
Yeah. And he's just one of the workers.
Yeah, right.
That's
right.
intriguing. That's interesting.
Maybe she's the heiress to a bee company.
No, I like that. I mean, I think it could be as simple as like the woman who devised this is a I think that's really interesting. I have a thought, because we haven't seen this woman yet, but I have a thought of like who it actually might even be if it comes down to it, which is kind of intriguing.
I think that sounds really, really interesting.
Yeah.
That sounds
Because
cool.
that gives a lot of opportunity for weird stuff to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who wants to roll?
I think David came up with the theory there. I don't know.
Okay.
Roll.
Yikes. It's snake eyes.
Oh, woof. That is wrong, and you're gonna have a rough night unless you all mark mask.
I'm into mark
I owe
mask.
2 already. Jesus. Sure.
Leslie, what's your situation for masks?
I will mark a mask, but then I am not going to come to the Bout Club match.
What does
If I
that
mark
put
a
you at in
mask-
terms of Jenna's mask?
If I mark the mask, it'll be my last mask of the past, and then I only have one mask in the future.
One that's
Okay,
not,
you do-
that's not the Bloodsoak portal.
Nope, that's the one I have.
Oh, that's the one you have. Okay.
Well, you do have the benefit of the Eternal Man. You could
It's true.
but still tap those.
I think I want to have, while everybody is out,
Mhm.
well, I guess except for maybe Morgenstern if he comes back, I think I want to have a little talk with Lady Brathwaite,
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Theodore Brathwaite, Mrs. Brathwaite.
Yeah, I love it. Good. I have an idea. Since your result is now a 7 and 9, I have a good idea for this next phase. But you are correct. Let's continue on with our dusk phase. What is everyone doing tonight? Go ahead and start, Miss Blakely, since you have a thought.
I am going to, because I'm not really interested in the fighting part, we theorized, we solved this mystery. These people can deal with it. I'm going to do my own thing and hang out at Hargrave House and solve a little problem there. I am going to give the jar of the little bit left of oil to the most capable fighter right now in our group, which is, of course, Miss Everly Gray.
Mm.
Oh, here, just in case you need it.
Are you sure it works?
Well, clearly, we saw it. You fought the thing.
We'll have the scene during the night phase if we need to. Ms. Everly Gray, what are you going to do tonight?
Definitely going to the next bout club location
Very
and
good.
taking one.
Mr. Graves?
I'm going to give my leg a rest, and I would like to, from the comfort of my room, sample the gin and and use it along with my familiar Morven to attempt to communicate with the old man Miss. Ritually, one of the things one of the effects I can do is communicate with someone or something that you do not share a language with. I don't know if that fits, but
I think it'll probably fit sufficiently. And Mr. Morgenstern?
I think I'll continue haunting graves in the evening. That sounds like the scene that I should be a part of.
Very good, very good. So, Ms. Everly Gray, it's just you taking care of the shortage slugger, it seems, tonight. Very good. Let's keep going. I know we have some Janus Mass prompts if anybody wants to go ahead and do them, or narrate your thing for your move, Ms. Everly Gray, or for your
The
Cosmic
weapon,
Passage.
the weapon, the cosmic passage.
Yeah, the
I mean,
weapon,
the moss-covered gate and the
Or yeah,
the
so
mask.
you get a lot.
Yes,
You get
I have a lot. So I'll do.
You can start
do-
now or wait. It's up to
Yeah,
you.
I mean, I can do the two short ones like
Okay,
now, and then I can
go
wait
for it.
until the last one. So for the weapon, it's in the book. It's in the codex of her family. I mean, it's like a specific memory of before the Everly Greys had their issues with the curse, and this was when the weapons were fairly new in the family. You know, one of the Everly Greys had run into a vampire, as they recognize them now. Like the creatures that hunt in the night with the fangs and the blood and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, they didn't have the stake part of it built in just yet, but then the Everly Grey that dealt with it decided, you know what? Instead of beating the vampire to death, I'm gonna need something a lot sharper and a lot quicker to be able to dispatch this thing. But when she was dealing with it, she had basically used her staves to essentially beat down the creature in its nest and its lair and dispatch it fairly quickly. But again, you know, developing the modification to be able to do it faster. And then the moss-covered gate. Artemis is remembering where this was early on in Kellen's transformation, and she didn't know necessarily the stories, the curse, and she was going to hunt him down for killing their cousin. And she had gotten so close several times, and finally, in the midst of a different hunt for a different creature, she actually met up with Kellen dispatching this creature in its lair. And she was so shocked and surprised that he was right there and she could have taken care of him. And she was there with her weapons raised, and she was going to take care of him right then and there. But in his eyes, she could still see her brother. And she let it go. She actually stopped and let it go. And that's when she started thinking that maybe he was no longer himself. And all the memories of him being human were going to be wiped away by all of the terror and all of the deaths that he was going to cause if she didn't continue her hunt and dispatch him.
Fantastic. Who wants to do a Janus mask?
I can do one real quick. A mask of the past. Narrate a flashback to your young adulthood that shows when you first met the leader of the coven. Name them. We see a younger, slightly younger Mr. Graves in his dissolute youth, shortly after he was ejected from university. And he is at a party with some other people of a mixture of society, older, younger, the more serious, the more those that are treating this as a bit of a joke. And they're sitting at a table. Mr. Graves has an ashtray before him with his cigarette smoldering in it, and a glass with some kind of alcohol, some kind of spirit. And the people around the table are led to join hands together and close their eyes. And Mr. Graves is kind of smirking. He's spoken to spirits all his life. These fools think they can contact the other side with this simple nonsense. But as he takes the hand of the person on either side of him, he feels quite a jolt from his right, and he turns to look at this person who he's not, he's had a few drinks at this point and is not paid too close attention to the people around him, but he sees next to him this young woman, similar age to him, perhaps a year or two older, tall, slender, pale, with red hair. And she kind of arches an eyebrow at him before closing her eyes, and the ritual commences. Sometime toward the end of the evening, we see them leaving the party. Mr. Graves, with a cigarette hanging from the corner of his mouth, sees this woman at the door, give a glance over her shoulder toward him, and there's that arched eyebrow again, and he follows her. Says, "I didn't have a chance to introduce myself earlier. My name's Crawford Greaves." And she says, "Delighted to meet you, Mr. Graves. I'm Kitty Wood."
Fabulous. Miss Blakely?
My last mask of the past is narrate a flashback to when you finally destroyed the person you fell madly in love with. How did the masterwork change to reflect your wrath? We see Miss Blakely walking into the cathedral. This is basically almost the same cathedral that we see when we see Miss Blakely's cathedral anyway. Small differences, just small things that you probably wouldn't even notice. It's not really her cathedral yet. She's walking in at a very brisk pace and heading down the stairs, down towards where the little wine cellar, where her and Valentine, her lover, the fake priest, tend to meet up. Behind her is just a working class guy carrying what looks like a portrait wrapped in burlap. She is quiet when she walks, not trying to be particularly stealthy, just it's a quiet place and it's not as old as it is in when we see it normally, so things don't echo quite as much. As she makes it down the stairs, though, she starts to hear some strange noises. Sounds of maybe it sounds like somebody is in pain, perhaps. As she gets closer to the entrance to the wine cellar, she realizes that the moaning she hears is not the sounds of pain. Well, not that kind of pain, anyway. The door is open, and she stands at the entrance and sees Valentine and Florian Treadway, her lover, the ex-lover, the man that Valentine swore to destroy. That's how they met. She'd almost forgotten his name. It's been so long. And he wasn't really that important. Just a man that spurned her. Seems like he's important now, though. And while she's standing at the door and watching, the camera sort of flashes to bits of skin and the sounds of skin slapping on skin and all that sort of panting noises, etc., etc. She turns away quietly and whispers to the working man. There's a time cut. And then we see the working man come back. He's got some tools with him. Blakely slams the door shut, which of course is when Valentine and Florian realize that she's there. Valentine gets up, not bothering to try and cover himself. She's seen it all. He laughs. What are you doing, my dear? I didn't expect you to be back so soon. This is quite the surprise. Blakely just looks at him and smiles. You know, Valentine, you never quite got around to telling me how you've lived so long. I had to find out myself. It took a bit of doing, you know. It took all of my skill. You may just see me as a pretty face, but I wouldn't have lived this long on my own if I didn't have some sort of cleverness. And you know, and she picks up the portrait as the working man starts to lay down a layer of bricks and shows it to Valentine through the little grate that you can see into the room with. It's quite a lot smaller than I expected. I mean, a masterwork such as this, you would think, oh, well, it's going to be this big, amazing piece, but no. And she starts to peel the burlap off of it. And his face, Father Valentine, is just pale and he's starting to sweat. My dear, you can't be, you really should be careful with that. Why don't you let me out? Or you can come in and we'll talk about this. Florian is standing behind him looking terrified. She's very slowly peeling the pieces off the burlap that's protecting this portrait. And we see this horrifying monster of a thing in the portrait. It is just, it's not even humanoid anymore. It's blood and viscera and bone, like if you took a human being and turned them inside out and then set it on fire. It is the most disturbing thing. She looks at it appraisingly. Well, I've seen better. And she puts it down. And this is when the bricks start to get up to the level of the grate. My dear, it does seem like we are going to be together forever. How strange, not what you expected, not what I did either. And Valentine at this point is sobbing. You can't do this. You know that you can't wall me in here forever. Blakely just smiles and says, goodbye, Mr. Treadway. And farewell, Valentine. And she turns around as the last few bricks go on, and you can hear the screaming of the men behind the door. the pounding on the wood as it gets quieter and quieter. And she heads up the stairs, and a few minutes later, up comes the working man. She turns to him and says, "You do realize you will have to keep this secret with you to the grave?" And he nods and says, "Why, yes, ma'am, of course, of course. As long as I'm living, I will not breathe a word about this." And she smiles and says, "I know," and pushes him down the long stone staircase. And she turns around and steps into the cathedral, her cathedral, and she takes in a deep breath. She feels not just powerful, but in control. The very air feels cleaner and brighter. There isn't this bogging down of responsibility or fear anymore. And she feels amazing. She looks around at her cathedral, hers now for sure, and says to one of the people nearby, "First thing we do is cover up that ceiling." And that's the end of the mask.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you. Any other Janus mask?
Yeah, I'll do mine as well. It's got some nice echoes of those scenes. Narrative flashback to when you were alive. This shows you battling and destroying a monstrous threat on behalf of Hargrave House. We see Mr. Morgenstern fully alive and impeccably dressed. His suit jacket is removed, but his waistcoat is on, and his sleeves are rolled up. And he is standing holding a mirror, like a hand mirror, out as he's looking into it and observing something behind him. He's in Hargrave House. It is a marginally younger Hargrave House. The things that are there now in our Hargrave present are there then, but they look newer, fresher. And he's in the trophy room, but there are lots of pictures. I think it used to be a portrait room. And there is another hunter who is there gazing into portraits. And Morgenstern is, "Mr. Drake, now, be careful. Don't look directly at." And before he can finish the thought, Mr. Drake catches glimpse of the thing they're hunting in the portraits. And all of Mr. Drake's flesh is rended from him and transplants onto the canvas, and his bones collapse. He says, "Blakely, faster now, Blakely." And Blakely comes bustling in. She's looks exactly like she always has anytime we've seen her. "I don't know why I have to be a part of any of this. The thing wants you. It wants you for your beauty. Come on, you surely have some experience understanding that. Now get in position." And Morgenstern watches in the mirror as Blakely moves across the room towards a floor-to-ceiling canvas in a frame portrait of her. But it's on hinges, and behind it is an opening. "Hold steady now. You can do it. It's getting closer. I can see it. Now, Blakely." And Blakely pulls the thing closed in front of her, leaving just the portrait. And the creature, whatever it is, inhabits the painting. Without looking, Morgenstern quickly gets up on a ladder and starts tacking on pieces of canvas to cover up the screen. And you see little pushing movements from inside of it as he tacks it all down. And then he looks at his handiwork. He puts the mirror down and looks directly at it and waits a moment. "All right, I think that did it, Blakely. Well done." And she pushes open from the false room behind the canvas. Says, "Are you quite certain? I can't stand having things like that in the house." "Yes, Blakely, well done." And he applauds her a little bit. She gives a perfunctory curtsy and goes on about her day. That's the end of the scene.
Fantastic. The unseen for tonight is going to be the Empire Club. It's the first one in the second row. The Empire Club is situated in the Grand Townhouse just off St. James's Square. Membership is popular among young aristocratic sons of lower birth order, many of whom have traveled to or profit from holdings abroad. Select invitations have been granted to those of less esteemed breeding who have managed to make their mark and a small fortune overseas. It boasts card games till the early hours of the morning, cooks from the four corners of the world, and plentiful bedrooms for those far from home or avoiding their family. Tall tales and business deals alike are shared over brandy and cigars. Everyone paints the scene. Prompt 2 will be Mads. Prompt 3 will be Amanda. Prompt 4 will be Rob. Let's take 5. The night phase. Paint the scene. Beyond the wood-paneled walls and leather armchairs, what signs of masculinity and power are on display here?
In frames, there's the crests of all the different houses, or all the different families of the aristocracy that can claim membership here. They have put up pictures of their crests, so in very, very ornate and obvious displays. So people know that they belong to the Empire Club.
And there are also framed paintings of kind of imperial battles. So there is, the British Army against the Zulus, the British Army against Indian Sikh cavalry, and the British Army against various other types of technologically outmatched victims of exploitation, and these all over the place.
In the corners of the room and milling about as necessary, there's manservant. They've got trays of spirits, each one of them a different sort, so there's one that's got all of the whiskeys or scotch or whatever. There's one that has all of the wines, and another that has all of the gins. They're holding them on beautifully polished mirror trays, and they'll come over so the gentlemen can have their choice.
There are no women, of course. There are a few women who work at the Empire Club, changing the linens, etc., but they are never seen. They're always coming in and out of the servants' passages. The whole idea is that this is supposed to be a place where men can be men and be friends with their men friends. And the only woman ever seen in this place, ever, is the portrait of the Queen above the entrance. For the men to, on occasion, just raise their glasses to say, "God save the Queen."
We'll start with Mr. Graves and Mr. Morgenstern in Graves's room. These are going to be real punchy night phase scenes, so just give us real kind of the setup here, Mr. Graves. What are you doing?
Graves is at his desk. He has the mirror of St. Petersburg close to him. Perhaps he's even set out behind the desk, like the dressing table. He has the bottle of this rot-gut gin that he brought back, a glass, and various kind of mystical apparatus arranged on the desk. And I think he carefully pours himself a glass, lights a couple of candles, and takes a drink in it and begins to reach out.
Cornelius, what are you doing?
Cornelius is assisting. There are certain magical apparatuses that are supposed to be in motion, but they're not permitted to be in motion by physical touching. So if it needs to be elevated or spinning or whatever it is, Cornelius is making that happen. But he's also inhabiting the mirror and inhabiting the gin. And when it gets consumed, at least partially inhabiting Mr. Graves.
Mm-hmm.
Zeverly Gray, the bout club is being held at an abandoned theater. And because of your performance last time, you are welcomed in. You're able to roam about. You end up towards the back, asking around about the slugger. And you're directed to a holding area. in the rear of the theater, what used to be a large prop storage area. And there's a woman in a white dress, very beautiful, standing there, almost as if she was waiting on you. And she says, Miss Everly Gray.
And you are?
Dr. Charles.
And you're Dr. Charles. Interesting.
Miss Blakely.
Sorry, I just put two and two together. That's awesome.
Theodora's room is different when you walk in. It is almost like you're stepping into like a worship service. She's had an organ brought in. There's someone playing the organ. There are candles lit. And you see that the wall on the far end of her room has been knocked down completely. And inside this space, which is covered with votive candles and a painting covered by a canvas, set before it is an altar with a glass dome over it, like Snow White. Back to Tavis, or actually the Empire Club. Back to the Empire Club. Mads, a boisterous game of cards, is played by some of the young bucks amidst the bluff and bluster. How do we see the differences between those with great wealth and noble blood and those with only one or the other?
The ones with great wealth and noble blood are the ones that are keeping up the patter amongst themselves and with those that they consider the same or a higher station, and they're also doling out the chips as they may. The ones that only have the wealth are trying to keep up and throwing in their chips just as much, but they can't understand what the patter and the talk is about. And those with noble blood are able to speak to those with both, but are very parsimonious with their chips, just kind of holding back, just kind of watching to see when it actually will be to their favor.
Let's get dice on the table, please, Mr. Graves. Sounds like you're doing Rites of Salt and Smoke, or are you doing a Thinning of the Veil?
Yeah, I'm doing right. I was aiming for Rites of Salt and Smoke, yeah.
Indeed, indeed. How are your tattoos involved in this?
Well, every time he does this, they kind of grow. So, and there's a painful, it's almost the power is drawn from
Indeed
the entities drawing upon his flesh when this is done.
I love it. Roll sensitivity.
I'm just wondering if I'm using, I might even mark the St. Petersburg mirror to give myself advantage, if I may.
Go for it.
And that would be a 13.
13. I love it. Let's read the thing. You can unmark the cosmic passage if it's marked. And per the move,
yeah, so the effect I was going for was communicating with.
Yeah, that'll work.
Mhm.
I'm going to say that Cornelius, your image in the mirror begins to take on the form of Old Man Miz. What does it look like? This is a river spirit.
It appears like a person made entirely of like algae or seaweed or riverbed plants, just just formed like a man. So it's very, very bushy beard and long hair, but like human-like eyes peering out, but they are lidless like a fish, but they look like a man's eyes, and that's most of the impression you get. Like the body is kind of hard to see in the mirror.
Very good. Ms. Everly Gray, this woman who calls herself Dr. Charles, she says, are you familiar with the new science of eugenics, Ms. Everly Gray?
No, I have not heard of such a thing.
Well,
Am I supposed to?
it is a fascinating new area of study. It is not yet accepted by the academy. I have frequently found myself on the wrong end of proper academic scholarship. And yet, I always continue the work. The short of it is essentially the idea that, well, people who are poor or destitute, people who are the dregs of society, it's because they have no choice. They have the wrong biological composition. And people in this new field, we are trying to get rid of those nasty little flaws to create the perfect man.
Is that what's being created here? With the Shoreditch Slugger?
An attempt was made.
I see. It didn't succeed. He seems to be
No.
doing well.
He is magnificent in many ways, but there are flaws, I'm afraid. Well, come with me.
Are you sure I won't miss my bout?
Don't worry, Miss Everly Gray. And she puts on, as she's leading you deeper into this chamber, she puts on a long black rubber glove. And another one. We have a mutual acquaintance, a mutual friend, Miss Everly Gray.
Really?
We do indeed.
Who such?
Admiral Flagg.
Ah, yes, the Admiral. Are you working for him?
Not anymore. I've already served my uses to him. And now I'm just doing little side projects.
I see. Well, it's wonderful to see that you're survived your experience with Admiral Flagg. I'm given to
Yes.
understand he uses, well, his associates quite.
Admiral Flagg is a man with some very interesting ideas. Like
Indeed.
Miss Blakely, Theodora is sitting there. She gets up and she says, "What do you think?"
Well, you've certainly been busy.
Yes, I have. Miss Blakely, I learned some things about the world, about the future, while I was trapped in that place.
Oh, do tell. Don't
Miss
keep me waiting.
Miss Blakely, I think you misunderstand me. I care only for the British Empire. This is something that Hargrave House and I have in common. My methods are different, controversial, you might say. But at the end of the day, I love Queen and country.
That's very wonderful for you.
I have devised a way for you to continue serving Queen and Country when she needs you most.
I'm afraid I have no idea of what you speak. What are you trying to get to? What are you trying to say here? Why are you even in Hargrave House? You're back to life. Go do something else.
Miss Blakely, I have managed to purchase a seat for you, a seat on a train to the future.
Yes, and what does that mean exactly? I have no wish to go anywhere. I'm perfectly happy where I am.
Oh, good. Back at the Empire Club. Amanda, two older gentlemen, Sir Mortimer Holland and Colonel Bulstrode, grumble about the lax morals and deficient work ethic of the younger generation. What complaints do they make, and how do we see the envy for their youth?
Sir Mortimer and Colonel Bulstrode sit in their chairs, and it's their chairs. They're always at the club. And they're both sort of slouched down as if they're part of the furniture, with a glass just resting on their glass of whiskey or some such resting on their bellies as they talk quietly between themselves. And they're talking about how when they were younger, they had to go to prove themselves. It wasn't just about their titles. They had to go and be part of wars and battles and really show how tough they were. And the young men these days, I mean, they're just given a title, just given, oh, yes, well, you can have this commission in the army, and you don't have to do anything. We'll protect you and it'll be fine. And oh, then they go home and they become family men. They stay with their wives and hang out at their homes and talk with their children. In our days, barely saw the children. In fact, raising your children, seeing them all day, that's how you raise them soft. That's why we are so much more, and they're kind of like still squat and froggy. That's why we're so much tougher and long lived, and we're healthier. And they're coughing into their handkerchiefs. And it's really just the same old that every older generation says about every younger generation, and will continue to do so as long as humans exist.
Mr. Graves, you wanted to communicate with old man Miz. What do you ask?
Why have you come back now? What is it you seek from the city?
Mr. Morgenstern, no. The thing shows you something. It shows you a well. The well is bricked up. And inside the space that has been bricked up, because it's from an earlier time in the city's history. It is covered with filth and detritus. Centuries of cast off waste from the city of London, poured in, piled on in this well. But the well is a holy place. The well is a sacred place from the ancient world. Old man Miz would have you know of this. That's a clue. Morgenstern, what are you doing right now?
If I can, I think I'd like to transport myself and Crawford Graves in our astral forms to this place. I'll check my last box to do it if that's what it takes.
I like it.
So that we can get a better lay of the land and where it is and everything else.
You are now at the well. You both are experiencing it. And it is a tight space. You can feel the very narrow space that the well is in. There's brick wall all around. You can hear the voices and sounds of London up above and around you. And coming from deep within the well, there is just this sort of deep, guttural moaning. Meanwhile, Ms. Everly Gray, Dr. Charles takes you to a room with the Shoreditch slugger. She says, he is beautiful in his way, don't you think?
I suppose. A bit demigodish, but it's fine.
You are also very beautiful, Miss Everly Gray. I have a particular line of medical inquiry related to physical beauty. I may yet have a use for you in that particular branch of my study.
It's part of a medical experiment.
No, nothing like that. That's more of a, I consider that a bit of artistic expression. This one, though, my attempt to create the perfect man was a bit of a failure, though he does love me very much. And he would have made a fine sentry for a time, for our mutual acquaintance, but I'm afraid there are flaws. Too many flaws. And she turns around now, the wooden mask pulled down over her face. And she says, I mean, just the simplest cut. And she swipes with her scalpel a single line of blood across his pectoral, which begins to spray wildly with blood. And he just slumps down to his knees and falls forward. The Shoreditch slugger is resolved. And then she says, and now about that beautiful face, Miss Everly Gray.
I think not.
Meanwhile, Miss Blakely, Theodora says, I have a proposition for you, dear.
This will be good.
100 years from now, Hargrave House will be a very different place, but it will need you. just like the Empire, what's left of it, will need you. I invite you to lay upon this altar and fall asleep dreaming for a century.
Why
And
on earth would I do that?
so that you can be found and unearthed. Everyone else here will be long gone, but you will be here. A new century, a new age, ready to do the work of defending your country.
From what exactly? If you know so much.
I've seen many terrible things. Miss Blakely, you will not survive in this city much longer. You have to go behind the walls, my dear. I'm offering you a chance for rebirth.
Theodore, I killed you. And yes, I brought you back to life, but what reason do I have to trust you now?
She says you may not have an easy time believing this, Miss Blakely, but I do quite love you in my way.
Blakely looks over at the portrait or the picture that was in the room.
It's covered, but yeah.
Yeah. And what's behind that?
She'll watch over you while you sleep.
In 100 years, then? That'd be
People-
what? The 1960s?
Well, 100 years, give or take. It all depends on when they unearth you.
How will they know to do so?
People are very industrious, Miss Blakely.
I cannot lie and say that I feel comfortable with any of this. However, I also feel that something has been different in the last little while. Something's changed. I don't feel like I belong here in this city, in this world. I don't belong anywhere else. Do I have your word that I will be back? Your word is the only word I will trust.
And she steps inside the little space she's made for you and pulls the canvas off the painting. I won't say what it is, but does what's on the painting convince you or not?
Blakely looks at the painting a long time and swallows, swallowing down her fear as best she can, straightening up her back, tossing her hair. Well, I suppose in an entire different century, I'll have an entirely different group of people to worship me.
I think you'll be most pleased with the way such idolatry happens in the future, my dear.
And I think Blakely steps towards this altar, this coffin.
The Empire Club. Rob, Francis Ackerman has recently returned from the subcontinent. As he retires to the bedroom he has taken at the club, how do we see him drop his stern facade and express his vulnerability?
As he steps into his room, Francis takes off his jacket and hangs it on a stand by the door. And he gives a deep sigh. And he steps over to the desk he has. And on it are a pair of candles, which he lights. And he brings out from behind a photograph that's propped there of him in a military uniform. There's a small totem, like a face carved from black wood, a kind of terrifying demonic face. And he places it there, and he holds his hand out in front of him, and we can see that it's starting to shake. And with his other hand, he reaches for a pipe, a long-stemmed pipe, which is what he uses to calm the traumatic nerves that he experiences every evening, the nightmares, from the things he saw and the things he did in the service of Her Majesty's Empire.
Mr. Graves and Mr. Morgenstern, please describe how the Holy Well affects you personally, and then you're taking a condition each of you called the Holy Well.
Graves feels like it's almost like he can feel this well pulling him. He can feel the direction and this powerful draw toward it, something sucking him in. And his curiosity is one thing, but he does not want to go down into this well and be piled up under the detritus of centuries. And yeah, I think he's, unusually for him, quite unnerved.
So long as you have the condition, you can relocate the Holy Well in the city. Mr. Morgenstern?
The Holy Well, by its very nature, is emitting a counter-spiritual pressure that is trying to destroy Cornelius Morgenstern and Crawford Graves' astral form. But Cornelius Morgenstern is anchored to this world by something that is stronger than the well's mere presence, and it cannot destroy him, but it does affect him.
You can also find it, so long as you can find it in this spiritual sense as well, so long as you have the condition. Ms. Everly Gray, Sally No Face lunges. What do you do?
She spilled the Shoreditch slugger's blood, didn't she?
He's quite dead.
Blood calls to blood. I want to roll.
Night move. What do you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
She's going to slice off my face.
It is worse than that. She's going to slice off your face,
And wear
gift
it.
wrap it,
Oh,
and send it to Hargrave House.
excellent. Awesome.
But I also want to take a look at your condition, bloodthirsty. I don't think it affects negatively. You can roll normal. It's vitality though.
Yes. And can I also, apply advantage to this as well?
For
Because of the dusk. No, wait. 7 to 9. I do get to roll with advantage on the next move and say how the beast is helping me.
Oh yeah, please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Anything I can get. Oh yeah. All right. That makes it a 12.
Very nice. You can dispatch Sally No Face as you wish.
Oh yeah. So she spilled his blood. She's trying to lunge at me. The blood, well, Duke of Blood comes out to play, and you can see the blood starting to lift, like in a slow motion, towards Sally as she's lunging, and then all the droplets turn into sharp little spikes that spike right into her face and into her brain. And she drops in her own pile and puddle of blood. And Artemis stands over her body and says, "You picked the wrong time, and your chips are definitely down."
Indeed. You get a bonus for the 12 plus, and the bonus is you find the keys to her laboratory in Miswell Hill. Miss Blakely, you are laying in beautiful repose atop this altar. Pristine, lovely, immaculate. It's like you're carved from marble. As the glass enclosure is lowered over you, we see that you are clutching a sapphire blue rose in your hands. And then we just see Theodora herself masoning up the wall, brick by brick. And then later, masoning up the entrance to this room, putting 2 layers between you and the future. Theodora gives one last look back at Hargrave House as she leaves and smiles and gets in her grand carriage to return to Brathwaite Hall. That concludes the night phase. The dawn. We do have rewards. Rewards. She'll take a picture of the Shortage Slugger rewards and pop those into the chat. Does everybody see that? For people watching the video, it is a pair of knuckle dusters stained intractably with blood, added to your personal quarters, a bottle of Dr. Rogan's botanical elixir for men, added to your personal quarters, and then 3 mementos from the investigation. Who wants what?
Oh, Artemis definitely wants the knuckle dusters.
Sounds good.
Mr. Graves will just take a memento, and I'm going to invite Miss Blakely to tell me what it is. Or Amanda.
Yeah, I think I'll
Thank-
take a memento as well. And Mr. Graves or Rob can tell me what it is.
Mr. Graves, the memento you have is from the night that you and Sum had your fight. There was a photographer there. Didn't even know. And it is a wonderful picture sent to Hargrave House from somebody whoever took the picture, this photographer who is familiar with Hargrave House enough to know to send the picture there, of Mr. Graves landing a punch on Sum, and you can see how the hard enough hit that his fist is indented into Sum's body, as if Sum is made out of some sort of grotesque rubber. And the look on Graves's face is this like feral, angry, very masculine kind of Shoreditch Slugger-esque look. And it is sent to Mr. Graves with no return address.
Other rewards?
I think for the memento that Cornelius receives. I'm trying to think of, it's not going to be a physical memento as such.
Just something laying around the house.
Yeah, I think it's almost like a newspaper that he would delight over reading the list of the names of all the people who died these mysterious, untimely deaths in and around the Bout Club. And as he reads it, he can kind of picture the circumstances of their demise and revel in it.
Very good. Artemis, what did you take?
The knuckle dusters.
Ah, good. Very good. Miss Blakely, you don't need anything. Let's keep going. Dawn, questions. We'll just skip Miss Blakely, but we'll go over to Mr. Graves. You all did answer a question. You did resolve a threat. And Mr. Graves, did you get an echo in the night?
I tried to with the kind of the notion of the desk that the person had in his room with the kind of candles on it and the paraphernalia echoing Graves' one.
Yeah, I picked up on that. Did you make love to a human in order to forget the darkness?
No.
Did you have a face-to-face encounter with a dark entity? Yes, you did. In the mirror.
Two, if we count Cornelius, yeah.
That's a good point too. Yeah, fair enough. You guys get the little XP farm going every session if you want. Cornelius, did you do an echo in the night?
I think so. References to gin and mirrors.
Oh yeah. Did you give someone a fright?
I think so.
You did several instances. Although I don't think Ada was frightened, though, is the thing.
Perhaps not. I think I frightened Graves, though. I think he said that at one point.
During the scene. The vulnerable scene. Did you counsel the living to appreciate being alive?
Probably not.
Okay. Artemis, did you have an echo in the night?
I don't want to say yeah. I was trying to hint at it with like the chips were down to what she said to Sally No Face with the tying in with the card game, or I mean the card game at the Unseen.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it's.
It was very tenuous. I understand.
I like it. I think it's fine. Did you revel in the thrill of the hunt?
I want to say yeah. I'm trying to hunt down Blakely when I was following her for Julius.
And also take an X on your hunt for killing Sally No Face too.
Because that.
Does that complete it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, can I still mark it? Let me see. Yeah.
Did you taste someone or something else's blood? Sweat,
there was so much blood, and I forgot.
I forgot. There was a lot.
Yeah.
There was indeed. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, let's keep going. Playbook moves. Do we have any Janus masks that need to be resolved?
Mine is just really short. It's just like the three masks.
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just pull it up. Sorry. Narrate a series of 3 quick flashbacks where the beast shows up on hunts throughout your life and puts you in danger. I can remember trying to save Lord Timothy Inverness from that nest of vampires. But it was only Julius. But still, the beast did knock me off the building. Luckily, tree dancing saved me from breaking my neck, and breaking the covered stained glass opened their world to a whole lot of sunlight. And then, when I was trying to track the missing spirits of those children at the crossroads, the beast came to block my path and ruin remaining signs, so Crossroads Folly would take me away too. But it seems Folly has a grudge against Mock as well, thereby driving the beast away and leaving me with an uneasy truce. And I almost stayed in that well forever because of the beast cornering me in the tunnels below the Hadashaw mines. If that bubbling in the water hadn't indicated another way out, I wouldn't have discovered that secret passageway. Unfortunately, there was some sort of neural damage. The surgeon says I may not regain full control of my jaw again.
Fabulous, thank you. Okay, then with all that said, stars and wishes. Who wants to go first?
So many, don't know where to start. I loved Cornelius tormenting Mr. Graves, or trying to, and I think there was a nice dynamic where he scared him, and then when he revealed the heart, that kind of turned Graves around and thought, oh, I have something on him. So there was a fun kind of dynamic going between them there. It'll be good to build on that in future sessions. I really enjoyed poor Miss Blakely's, not demise, I don't want to say, but yeah, I'm eagerly awaiting her adventures in the 20th century. In future, yeah, that's when she awakens. When, you know, maybe when they're building a skyscraper and demolish the cathedral and knock through the wall and find her there, and she rises from that glass coffin, fresh as the day she was put in there. Yeah, loved Artemis dealing with Sally No-Face at last. Artemis had a couple of great, really nice action moments where she, you know, got to show off her Van Helsing credentials. That was cool. Yeah, I don't know, so many good things. I'm really intrigued by this new mystery. I kind of wish we could carry straight on next week, but I'm also excited about the stuff we're going to do in the hiatus. So, but I think Graves is fascinated by the Old Man River character and what that could mean. And I'm super looking forward to the Coven coming into play. And I enjoyed getting to introduce the Coven leader briefly.
We're going to have the Coven and the Beast in play, like right on top of each other. So that'll be fun.
Maybe they're connected. Who knows?
They might be the last 2 threats too before you have to face Flag as well, because you got 13 mastermind clues. So stars, I loved. There was a really fantastic theme through the session of like things being walled up or things being like hidden in the walls of London and uncovered or discovered or about to be in the future uncovered. We saw it with Julius, we saw it with the well, we saw it with Miss Blakely, obviously. Just really loved that as a sort of theme, this idea of London being this very, very ancient city and like things being buried in the walls. I thought it was really, really great. Had a good time with that. I really loved seeing Miss Everly Gray be a badass monster hunter the whole session. I thought that was really fun. That's what the character wants to be doing, I think. And so that was really enjoyable. The Janus masks were also really good, Mads. And yeah, the dynamic between Cornelius and Mr. Graves was a lot of fun. I think what I really like about that dynamic is it almost feels like, so it's like Mr. Graves knows what it means to be a witch, a magical person who deals with dark spirits and demons. And it seems like Cornelius learned it from like a Halloween Penny Dreadful, right? Like it has like that kind of vibe, you know, like and so it's an interesting dynamic between the two of them, right? So I'm kind of digging that a lot. I think it's really fun. Yeah, and Miss Blakely's end was really enjoyable and fun and poetic, and I loved the sort of ambiguity of it, and I loved the sort of like full circle story between Theodora and Miss Blakely. It was really good. So.
Stars for, well, first off, the one that comes to mind is thank you so much for tying in Cornelius's heart with Graves' beating heart. That was brilliant.
That was absolutely genius.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was beautiful. Oh my God, that was, I mean, if I was here for anything this session, it was like that. I was like, ah! So, great. I mean, beautiful. And, oh my God. Everybody's narrations were really good. I mean, it's almost like really digging into things that we're going to see. I mean, not real, like as if we're not really going into a break, but it's kind of like hitting this weird like roll into what's going to be the climax, because now we have the Coven and the Beast ready to just come out and play, and we still probably have like another threat coming, maybe. Who knows? So again, this is just been like a roller coaster of a session, and it's been wonderful. And then, I mean, Blakely, that last mask, so beautiful. And then just this weird understated ending. I mean, it was like a weird counterpoint, and it was just so appropriate. I mean, again, stars for that. And I mean, I don't know what my wish would be. I mean, like, you know, whatever resolve we have for the Beast, the Coven, the next threat when we come back like all together. I mean, just wishing to see how it plays out, because it's gonna be bazonkers. So.
Yeah, stars for all the lines of continuity in this session. It seemed like every scene had something like that. The heart thing was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. And I don't know. It just really floored me. David, all of your scary stuff is really scary. Like, you're frightening. It's great. I love it. But yeah, it's I'm gonna have nightmares, I think, about Morgenstern, which is great. I like that in a character, I suppose. I also love the Graves and Morgenstern interactions. It feels like a weird buddy comedy, but scary. I don't know how to explain it. It just seems like a really natural partnership, but in a really unhealthy way.
I was thinking of there was this old British TV show called Randall and Hopkirk Deceased, where there were two private investigators, and one of them had died. He dies at the very beginning of the first show, and then he comes back as a ghost and helps with the investigations.
That's perfect.
I mean, I don't even know if it's partly because it's like, you know, even the way you two played in the last season with Pope and Sure Shot, I mean, it just works out so well. And then just for the fact it worked out again with Graves and Some, and then Graves and Morgenstern, it's a great pairing. It's a wonderful pairing.
I also really liked that Artemis got to be this badass monster hunter the whole session. Like there wasn't a moment where you weren't like being completely badass. So that's a lot of fun to see Artemis being on all the time. Jason, amazing job tying in so many different things, bringing in Dr. Charles as the person who, is involved or creating this whole shortage slugger problem, and also being Sally No Face, also pulling that in so we could clear up Sally No Face. And it was just absolutely brilliant. And I had a lot of fun with tying up all those loose ends, I guess, or watching them get tied up, because I was not there. But and also the ending for Blakely, I had no idea how Blakely's end was going to play out. I didn't really have a particular like, oh, this is what I wish will happen. It was definitely one of those play to find out situations, and I wasn't sure what Brathwaite's deal was going to be, because it could have been so many different things. And I think this one was the most surprising, but the most appropriate way to end. My wish is, of course, Blakely in space. I mentioned in a few other places this week that my favorite Friday the 13th is Jason X, and my favorite Hellraiser is Bloodlines, and my favorite James Bond is Moonraker. I just like it when people go to space. So I'm really excited for Blakely in space, and it's going to happen in my imagination, whether or not it happens in real life.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the session. All of the calls backs were delightful. All of the restrictions on talking about the past, but just flirting with it a little bit was really fun. But then like we get to see a lot of it explicitly through the masks, and everybody was doing those up really neatly. So we had good ones. I also enjoyed the theme, the through line of things hidden in walls or things being bricked up. That was wonderful. That was delightful. We also had this like idea of like portraits being more than what they are. That happened several times as well. That was really fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed the dynamic that the ghost was getting with the vessel. That was really fun, and I'm glad that for how that worked out. And like investigating the miasma was really fun, and how Jason was doing Ada as like this person who like kind of can perceive it somehow was neat. Everything was really vivid in this one. Like I felt like I could see the TV show version of every scene that we were in today, which is great. Nothing felt like abstract. I felt like I knew exactly what each scene was looking like in my head. So that was really wonderful. And I thought we got to see a really beautiful ending, in quotation marks, for Miss Blakely. Like Blakely is out there. She'll probably come back around sometime in the future, but we may never see her in our story again. But that felt great. That felt right for the kind of character that Blakely is, this undeniable creature that can just keep existing. The play with the vampires and Blakely and Artemis was really, really fun. And it's always wonderful when a side character reveals themselves to be a former, servant of the mastermind or danger or whatever, like by putting on the costume and the trappings kind of in slow motion there. So all of that was delightful.
Any wishes or anything? I mean, we've got our break from this campaign, obviously, but I'll say that we do have just 2 more mastermind clues to collect, and so I will be curious to see what playbook Amanda takes for the next go. Currently, there's just the Martian and the Explorer. Either would probably be fine. The Explorer makes a lot of sense in terms of just the sort of like dark gothic horror tone we've been doing. Having said that, though, there's a really strong chance we'll have a couple more playbooks out by then too. So we might have the Reactant, we might have the Underground, we might have those are the 2 that are probably most likely to be done by then. But there could be others as well that are kind of simmering in the backdrop. So yeah, there may be some options by the time we get there. So I'll be curious to see how that goes. Any other wishes?
Yeah, my other wish would be, I think Graves and Artemis need to team up again. It's been a while.
Yeah, well, I mean, considering like both of our side threats or however you want to call them are converging now upon Hargrave House and us. Yeah, it'll be fun. Absolutely.
Indeed. Any other stars or wishes?
Again, just a star, and I don't know why I keep forgetting this, and it's ridiculous, but star for you, Jason, because not only making this game that so many people like have gotten to know and play and love, but also, I mean, I've hesitated for a while to try and think about doing a campaign of my own because it's like your embodiment of your characters, your masterminds, your NPCs, everything is just now ingrained in my head that I don't think I can do those mysteries and those masterminds. I have to do the newer ones because
Yeah, you could do it. You could totally do it.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm fighting against like your perfection in embodying them. That's what I'm trying to fight against because remember, I want to emulate you when I grow up. So so
I will say
stars.
though, as a side note, I'm watching that Monday night stream that Critical Failsafe does, and Xander's doing all the same threats and characters that I do, and doing them amazing, and it's like different than what I do, but it's like so cool and so good, and it makes me think that like I love it because it's like my expression of the characters is not the only expression of the characters, right?
Oh
And
no,
Yeah.
it's not.
yeah.
But I mean, again, it's like when you're kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
It's stuck in there. I got So
No,
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah.
It's like seeing a stage performance and the same role played by a different person. They have their own interpretation, and it's just like delightful to like be knowledgeable of one and then see another, and you're just like, oh, that was so smart how they did that, and it was
Yeah.
so different.
I
and
love
it was
that.
wonderful.
I love that Xander and their campaign. They like emphasize like different characters, like characters that don't like get emphasized when I run them. And I think that's really. I don't know. I like that. I think it's kind of says something about the game too, which is kind of fun. Like keepers and players will gravitate to different things, which I think is pretty enjoyable. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mads.
no, I mean, like again, just like bursting stars for all of it. I mean, once I get out of my little like mental rut of that, I mean, I am going to run my own campaign.
I want to see your Man in the Sun mask. So.
Oh yeah, no, I have plans for the Man in the Sun mask for sure. So no, that is definitely one mystery I will run because I love that I love the Limehouse Lurker so much. I mean, regardless of what we did with it, I mean, I think that like that's such a full mystery, and you can take it so many different ways. And as we've seen with Brindlewood Bay and with The Between, so many tables have their own canon of what their resolution of the threats are, and it's beautiful. I mean, that is the beauty and the bursting stars of the game, because it gives us so many different options, so many different people playing, so many people being able to enjoy this and not be like, oh well, we're stuck at that ending, well shit, like that's done. No, you're not. It's great. You can replay this all the time and it'll be different every time with every table. And that's if I could give you a standing ovation, I would. I mean,
I take it.
Absolutely. Hey!
Woo! Fabulous. Well, yeah. Anything else?
So I'm feeling the squeeze of this Unquiet Playbook with its energy tracker thing and how you need to fill it before you can empty it. And I can only fill in like quantities of 2 at my discretion.
At your discretion, yes.
So I'm like stuck with 3 and 1 blank that I can't do anything about. So I think I might be writing a custom move to give me a release valve to clear some energy track in another way. If that sounds cool.
You have it filled right now, don't you? Because you used 2 the first time. You used 1 to move around in the day phase via the reflections, and then you used 1 to drag you all to the well. So you're full. Right
now. I volunteered to use 1 to go to the well, and I didn't catch that you had accepted that as the cost. But I'm happy to have it filled so I can at least get the thing cleared. But I did draft up a little custom move that might give me another option if you think that it will work with the playbook and everything.
Yeah, we can chat about it when we have more time. But Fantastic. Anything else before we stop the recording, at least?
No, just we're gonna miss you, Mads.
Yeah.
We'll keep your spirit
alive.
alive.
like you're
It's
dying.
hey,
You're literally-
you guys are gonna be playing like, you know, two games that I would love to well, I haven't
we're
played
treating
Trophy
it
Gold yet.
we're treating it like you're like dead. like you're,
Yeah.
I
we're just
mean-
like we're just taking you're just going away for a couple months and then coming back. It's like...
I'm coming back as the unquiet. It's fine.
Yeah, you'll be haunting us in the games.
Oh no!
I
Oh
bet.
wait, no. Well, I mean, like Amanda, you did make a suggestion for like when you guys do Ghosts of El Paso. It's like I could always like, you know, play my inevitable distant.
Yeah, write letters. Like, who's
Yeah,
writing
no,
us these spooky
This is
letters?
Mortimer.
Epistolary version.
This is Mortimer writing letters. It's like devil's in the details. Wait, no, devil's in the details. I think this needs to be taken care of by the Vigilance Committee.
I love it. All right, well, I'm gonna stop the recording.